What's up, everyone, and welcome to a cryptocurrency market update where we're going to be covering Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a few altcoins as well. And that is exactly what you're looking for. And that's why you're here. So let's start with Bitcoin, and we're looking at the weekly time frame here. So Bitcoin on the weekly time frame, pretty much the quick version of what we've been talking about. There's this bearish divergence in the RSI that is confirmed with the push below this previous daily candle here. And the purple zone is going to be the area that I will look to go long on if we end up getting to. And that is around 37,900 all the way down to about 28,800. And if we end up going above this high, this black candle's high, instead of going down into this purple zone, and we just trade up from here, which is entirely possible, it could happen, we'll actually end up forming a weekly hidden bullish divergence because we'll have a higher low in price, but we'll have a lower low in the RSI. So that'll be really bullish. So if we end up breaking that high, it'll even just push Bitcoin even higher. So that's something to watch. If we look at the daily time frame, sorry, this is not supposed to be on the daily time frame. If we look at the daily time frame, a couple things to note here. We swept the liquidity right above this high with this candle right here. And what that's telling us is the whales in the market needed to push this price into this level so they could push the price down. But then the bulls held the price up to some extent with this long lower wick of people buying the dip. Now this blue zone is our support level, and that's held 1, 2, 3 times. Now the more times we come into that zone, the more it's going to weaken. Same thing with this gray zone though, which is our main resistance level. The more times we test this zone, the weaker that's going to get as well. And so right now we've tested that zone twice. But you can see that we're starting to try and perk up here on the daily time frame and try and push higher. Now, if we push into this level a third time, it might hold for a third test. But if we come back down below again, who knows if this blue level holds for a fourth test, because we've already tested it 3 times. But we'll have to see. But whichever one of these sides breaks, if we break above the gray zone and we close 2 candles above that, that'll be a good spot to long. On a retest, and if we close below the blue zone 2 candles, that'll be a good spot to short on a retest if we end up going into that. It would look something like this. We come into here, we come down, we come into here, and then we go down. So that would be the entry right there if we were to do that. If we were to come up, we would come up through here, retest here, and then go up from there. And so that's what I'm watching on the daily time frame. If we go, one other thing I want to point out on the daily time frame, if we look at the Ichimoku cloud real quick, we bounced off of the Kijun absolutely perfectly right here. I mean, the Kijun was at 43,044 and we went to 43,021. So we went only $20 into that Kijun level, bounced off of that perfectly. So if you're a cloud trader, it's held up 2 times down below here, and now it's holding up down here. The settings that I use for this is 2060 120 30, and that's good for high cap coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum, as there's a lot of volume that's traded through there, and that slows down the signals that you get from the cloud, versus if you did the regular default settings, you're going to get a lot more signals, and so it's going to end up being a lot more difficult, I think, to trade. So the doubled signals are settings rather are a lot better. So if we go to the 12-hour time frame, something to watch here is we're starting to try and form a bullish trend here on the 12-hour time frame after we already made a bullish trend here. Believe it or not, we had our low, high, higher low, and then higher high, and we closed both of these candles above this high on this exchange. Not every exchange did that, but a lot of them did. A lot of the big ones like Binance and Bitstamp and Coinbase. But then we went down through this kind of support level that should have held, and we grabbed some liquidity down below here, closed above it, traded up, formed a lower high, then came down, and now we're trying to form another higher low in comparison to here. If we end up pushing above this high right here from this candle on March 5th, then we will end up, if we close 2 candles above that, this zone on the top of these 2 candle bodies will be a support level that I'll look to long, and that's about 48. That's at about 48,800. So that's something to watch. But if we go down to the the 8-hour time frame, there's something that I want to note here. This looks like it could be the makings of an inverse head and shoulders, with our left shoulder, our head, and then the makings of our right shoulder here. Now, if you're not familiar with the inverse head and shoulders pattern, this is a bullish reversal pattern, which means that it's reversing bearish price action. And so right here we have our bearish price action pushed down in the left shoulder. We come up, we push down lower to form our head. We come up with an expansion in bull volume. We come up to form a very close to equal high in comparison to the other left shoulder, with a neck that's forming what we would consider to be the neckline there. And then we came down, and now we're trying to form a right shoulder here potentially. Now, if this ends up breaking out, the target for this, if this does end up being an inverse head and shoulders, is going to be about $9,000 from the neckline. So $9,000 from the neckline takes us to about 61,000. So that would take us to about 61K if we ended up going there, which is obviously an all-time high. And let's see if there's a pivot up there. It might even go all the way up to 63. Well, actually, the pivots are going to change unless we go up like rocket ship in the next like day, which I don't really see as likely. That'll probably take some time, and we'll have to move over to the next set of pivots, which will be in this time period here, in between these two gray lines. So we'll see where those pivots are. Those are based on an average of the previous price action. So we'll see where those end up being, but those will probably be somewhere to watch. That's an indicator that I like to use whenever we get into price discovery, which is going to be anywhere above this high, because we don't have any price action to go off of. We don't have any previous levels to look at. So I'll be looking at these like R2, R3 levels that are going to print in the future once we get past this level, which is at March 8th. But if we go on the 4-hour time frames, a trade that I talked about, I believe it was yesterday, was this orange zone right here. So I want to just talk about this trade and why it was a good setup. So we had a high, low, lower high, lower low, and then that was our confirmed bear trend. Then we had another lower high and then lower low. And so that makes this zone right here, this white candle, which is this zone right here, our resistance. And so we came into that level perfectly right here. If you were to take an entry on the bottom of that zone, you would have made on this exchange about 3.8%, which is pretty good for over the course of one day. And now we're trading into this for the second time. So if we end up going through this zone and we end up trading through it, closing 2 candles above it, and then coming back into it, I'll look to long a retest of that for then a push higher. So that is where I will be looking, and then I'll be looking to target this high right here if we end up retesting this zone right here. Another level I'm watching is on the 8-hour time frame. I'm really liking the setup here if we end up getting a push with 2 8-hour candles above this high. This black candle right here is going to be a very strong support zone for us if we retest that level, which is what I'm going to be looking for if we end up closing 2 candles above it. So let's go to ETH here and start off on the weekly time frame. ETH is actually looking more bullish than Bitcoin is. ETH came down. It's currently bouncing off of the previous all-time high level here, right around $1,370. And ever since we opened up this candle this week, we have started to trade up. We have a very small lower wick. As soon as this candle opened, people were buying down there, and we've pushed up ever since over $200. We're bullish on the Ichimoku cloud with the Tenkin above the Kijun and the cloud being green here. This is signifying trend continuation. So we'll have to see if that ends up being the case here. But if we go to the daily time frame, we get a little bit more clarity here. On the daily time frame, we bounced off the daily Kijun here twice on the Ichimoku cloud. So that your entry was going to be down here somewhere. And you can see that this level has held up. Well, it actually hasn't even touched it really on this. That's how bullish ETH has been. It wasn't even like Bitcoin where we touched it down here. It almost touched it right here. but we've touched it twice here, and it's held very well both times. And we have the makings of a bullish daily flip of the trend back to be bullish here. So we have our low, high, higher low in comparison to this one, and now we're pushing above this high. We're trying to form a higher high. So we'll need 2 candle closes above this high from March 3rd, up at around $1,658 to confirm this daily bull trend, which would take us, in my opinion, at least up to the top of this red zone, which is at $1,840 roughly. If we go to the 8-hour time frame, though, something I want to point out here is it's basically the same setup as Bitcoin with this inverse head and shoulders here. The target for ETH is different than Bitcoin. This target is going to be about $362. So $362 from that neckline is going to be about $2,023. So it's going to be right up there, about $2,023, so right around all-time highs. But the daily resistance level, this red zone, is really the level that we're running into right now. And so we pushed down, we pushed up, we tested the level, we pushed off of it, and then we closed below it. And so now we're trying to break through that zone right here. And it's going to be challenging, and this is the body of the candle right here, where both of these candles kind of form this low and then pushed above, is going to be the main resistance level, and that's up at about $1,777. And so that's going to be where we're looking for the price to potentially reject off of and then come down. But if we look at the 8-hour time frame, the resistance level that we're currently running into, which is right here, this level, we tested once, twice, 3 times, and now this is the 4th test, and we're trying to close above that level right here. So if we end up closing 2 8-hour candles above this level, I will look to long a retest of this level, which will be right around, somewhere around here, with my stop loss below that gray zone, and then target at least the 1777 level, which will be above a 2.28 risk to reward ratio, which is nice and good, definitely within my range for what I'm looking for. And that'll be confluent with the inverse head and shoulders pattern, as typically sometimes when you have these patterns, you trade above the neckline, you close above it, and then you retest the neckline as support, and then you go up. So actually, if we were to do that and go run the target, the actual full target of the pattern, that would be a risk to reward ratio of about 6.46. So that would be a very good trade, in my opinion. So that will be something that I'm looking for. Another trade I'm looking for is on the 6-hour time frame, more in the immediate future here. We have already established a bullish trend on the 6. Well, we're about to confirm it in an hour if this candle closes above this high right here. This gray zone is going to be support, and I'll look to long a retest of that zone right here, which will put my stop loss pretty close. But if we target that 1777 level, that's about a 7. So if we end up getting into that level, that's something that I'm going to be watching. That's pretty much all I got for ETH. So let's move over to some altcoins here. Looking at MIR protocol. Now, if you don't know what MIR protocol is, this is a cryptocurrency protocol that creates synthetic assets and puts them on the blockchain. So you can take like a stock, for instance, like Apple stock or Google stock or Tesla stock, and you can create a synthetic version of that that's tradable and investable and put that on the blockchain. And that's what MIR protocol does. That's why it's called MIR, because they're kind of mirroring an asset in real life and putting it on the blockchain, which is pretty cool. There's a couple other platforms that do something similar to that, but I really like MIR. You can see that it's had a nice weekly push up here, but then last week we had this bearish candle that closed back below this high, which was not good for the bulls, but ever since we opened this weekly candle, we've been trading up ever since. And if we go to the daily time frame, this is really what the bulls need. The bulls need to close. This is our resistance level, this red zone right here. We had our high, low, lower high, and then lower low right here. Now this zone held once right here. We tested it once right here, rejected, and now we're going into it a second time. Now, if we end up going and trading and closing above this high twice, today's candle and the next daily candle, that will turn this black candle right here into a support zone that I will look to buy a retest of. And this zone is right about 5.3. That's the high of it. And then the body of the candle right here is at 5.129. So that's where I'd be looking to go long. And that would be targeting, if we don't go above this red zone and we close 2 candles inside of this zone and then come into this, which could be likely, I'll look to target at least the top of that high, which is still a 2.31 risk to reward and about a 21.48% gain, which is nice and juicy and definitely what I'm looking for. If we go to the 4-hour time frame, we can see that we are already trending bullish here on the 4-hour time frame with our low, high, higher low, higher high. Then we push down. We didn't quite get all the way down to these levels here, and then we're starting to push up again into this zone. Now, very similar to Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's no surprise that this is looking really convincing to be a inverse head and shoulder. This is pretty convincing pattern. You have your left shoulder right here, head, right shoulder right here. And so, this could easily end up going up from here. If we look, it's pretty likely that we're going up to about 5.915, in my opinion, for the Ichimoku cloud. Whenever the cloud is flat like this, there's like one edge of the cloud that's really flat. That is typically acting as like a magnet to price. And so that's kind of what we're seeing here on the 4-hour time frame. If we go over to another cryptocurrency that is in the MIR protocol ecosystem that I like, this is the last one that we'll look at here. We have Luna. And if we look at Luna, we can start off on the weekly time frame here. If we look on the weekly time frame, we've pretty much just had a parabolic rise since our lows down here. We've went up over 500%, and we did not form a higher low right here on this black candle. It looks kind of like we did, but if you actually look at the candle lows, this one is at 4.96, this one's at 4.97, so it's higher. So we did not end up actually forming a low. So we've literally just been rising since. If we go to the daily time frame, the daily time frame here is looking really bullish with the daily Ichimoku cloud trending upwards here with a green cloud, the most bullish pattern in the cloud ecosystem. And we had this consolidation period here that we're currently trying to trade above. Now, on the daily time frame, this last daily candle is very bullish. We had our low, high, higher low, and then higher high above this high. Now, if we close today's candle above this high, that is a confirmed daily bullish trend, and we'll probably look to go a bit higher, although we are currently running into the R1 pivot. And this is why I like to use this indicator, because this is a perfect example of how this indicator can show you exactly where there might be a resistance level when there's no prior price action to look at in terms of establishing a resistance level that you're going to sell some of your Luna at. This is the level that you're going to sell at. The next level after that is up here at 12, point whatever. If you go to the weekly time frame, they're not even relevant, because we've went up so high so fast that they were passed up way down there. So if we go to the hourly time, the 4-hour time frame, we have, honestly, I would probably even look to the 8-hour time frame. Oh yeah, here we go. So the 8-hour time frame is looking really bullish here, in my opinion. So we have our, I'm actually going to move this up to here. So we had a low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So we're just trending bullish on the 8-hour time frame. We came up, now we're coming down into this zone as well. This yellow zone is our support level right here. The strongest level for this is down at 7.7486. That is going to be the main level of support for this 8-hour time frame. And then you can see that the Ichimoku cloud, the Tenkan and the Kijun, are starting to perk up here as well and flip back above the Tenkan, the blue line, is trying to flip back above the Kijun and go back into the most bullish like format that it can be in, which is the Tenkan above the Kijun, both of those above the cloud being green, and then price being above the Tenkan and the Kijun. And that's currently what we're about to see, it looks like. Well, if we don't already have that, 6.9883, yep, it's already confirmed. So typically if you're making this entry, you're going to be looking for the closest support level to buy, and that would be right here. And then you're targeting, either the previous all-time high in this case, which is right here at $9, which is about a 10% trade. Otherwise, you're going up to the pivot levels, which is up here at about 9.76, or on the daily time frame up here at 12.14, believe it or not. So we'll have to see what ends up happening here on the 8-hour time frame. That's really the level I'd watch. If we go to the 4-hour, we can look at it on the 4-hour as well, just real quick. We could go all the way down to this level right here, and we'd still be valid, or even the top of this zone right here. We had our right about here, low, high, higher low, higher high, and then we had a higher low, higher high, but then we closed below that, so now we're trading down. So the 4-hour time frame is in the most bullish pattern. Tenkan above the Kijun, both of those above the cloud. The cloud just flipped back to be green. So for the Luna Bulls, it's looking real good if they can get a daily close above this level right here, which is 8.2212. So that's all I got for this extravaganza, this cryptocurrency market update. I hope it was helpful for you. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe so you can get updates for when we release these future updates, and I will talk to you guys soon.